Coming up on today's show.
When you start working with master to-do lists, that's when you're thinking, oh, I've got to get these things done in the next 6 months.
Do you have a routine or a system for like making sure you check those larger period, like the annual list? Do you like pick a day during the month and look at it once a month, or how would you suggest implementing that?
The thing about the dedicated days is you can kind of be a little more loose with that, and you can say, Tuesdays is my errands day.
Organizing with to-do lists. Today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we are going to use our list to get some things done. Actually, we're going to be talking about to-do lists. And joining us is Maureen Heinen from sendinmaureen.com. Maureen, how are you doing today?
I'm great, John. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, it seems like the to-do list is the ultimate organizing device. I mean, if you're doing anything, whether it's a little Post-it note with a couple things on it or, something elaborate with, deadlines and dates and all these kinds of things, everybody can pretty much understand the concept of to-do lists. So let's talk today about how we really use those in a variety of ways to kind of keep ourselves organized. So where do you want to start?
Let's start with a simple to-do list. Not
Okay.
everything you have to do over your lifetime, but let's just talk about, something you'd have for this week, this month.
Okay. So how do we put one together?
So normally you just, stream of consciousness, you just jot down one after the other. You got a long list, let's pretend it's 17 items. Well, it might have you jumping around from making calls to doing errands to fixing the plumbing to all kinds of things. One of the simplest ways to attend to it is to cluster the things that naturally fit together. So out of your master list, just highlight the calls you need to make. Then you kind of put on your call making hat and you make 4 calls. Mm-hmm. Boom, all your calls are done. And then you might have, these are the 6 errands I need to make. These are the 3 home projects I need to do. That way you're not changing hats because the brain doesn't like too much of switching gears. It works better when you kind of stay on the same theme.
So let me just kind of summarize that a little bit. So the first thing we want to do is we don't want to just kind of dump as many things as we can on the list. We're not saying this is the list for today, or is it? Or is it the list of all the things I need to get done? I got them all here. Now let's start sorting them or categorizing them into groups.
Yeah, categorizing them in groups. And if today's list is big, you can just work on today. Mm-hmm. If you want to tackle the week's to-do list and really lay it out, you can do that. When you start working with master to-do lists, that's when you're thinking, oh, I've got to get these things done in the next 6 months.
Right. Well, some people say, on a day, you should only, do 2 things or pick 3 things on your list and let everything else, so that by the end of the day, I'm going to at least have a couple things done. I guess it's a way of prioritizing too. What do you think about that? People that say that?
Oh, I think that's great. My fellow organizer and friend, Kathy Franzen, calls it a stubby to-do list.
Okay.
And one way to trick yourself is to use just one of those tiny Post-it notes. And only the things that can fit on a Post-it note are the things that you want to tackle. So yeah, pick 3 things. You'll feel good about accomplishing that. And then if there's extra time, you can add something else. But your absolute priorities, just a few of them. Good job.
Now, would you take that and maybe put it in your wallet or carry it around with you, or you put it on the mirror, or what kinds of things do people do in order to keep those 2 or 3 things ever present in their mind?
Some people would just, if they spend a lot of time on their computer, they just put it on their screen. You could put a little Post-it note on your paper calendar, whether it goes in your purse or whether it's on the wall. You could also just have a digital document on your phone. You just pull up your notes area on your digital phone and just for the day's date, these are the three things I'm going to get done.
All right. Well, now what do you use? What's your typical to-do list look like? I mean, electronic, paper, is it something you put on the little stubby um, theory, or how do you accomplish your tasks?
Well, as an organizer, we folks like to try everything. I've used paper for a long time. I was a big fan of Franklin planners
Yep.
for in the years past, and then I went to digital, and honestly, I felt better having it in paper.
Hmm.
So I'll start with a monster everything I need to do forever list. But then I do some unique things by putting it to kind of prevent, how urgent stuff just pops up.
Hmm. Yeah, it
I
happens
wanna,
all the time.
yeah, it sure does. I want to attend to important things too.
Right.
So I've kind of created a system. It's not new. I'm sure somebody else has created it somewhere along the line where you categorize things. What do I tend to do each day? And then I make a cheat sheet of, yeah, these are the things I do every day.
Right.
Three things I do when I wake up, three things I do before I leave for work, four things I need to do when I get back from work, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then I learned this from Susie McCune, who's another organizer friend of mine, who, when she told me, and I thought, boy, it makes so much sense, have dedicated days
Mm.
where it's kind of a theme, like Wednesday is your banking day. So
Yes.
you kind of focus on financial. It reminds me of the 50s housewives, laundry on Monday, ironing on Tuesday, baking on Wednesday.
We still
Um,
do that in our house. We have laundry on Monday, and let's see, I think ironing on Tuesday, and then there's
oh,
vacuuming on Wednesday. Just because how with all the people we have in our house, we've got to get a bunch of stuff done. So, um,
that's very smart.
but maybe we're living back in the 50s too. I don't know.
No, no, you're using predictability to your advantage.
Yeah, I don't
It,
know if this ties into on the show notes that I had for today about these daily routines. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
yeah, let's say you want to do three things before you leave the house. And let's say you want to incorporate some new habits. So, you're going to brush your teeth, you're going to shower, you're going to get dressed, you're going to feed the dog. But let's say you want to get into the habit of doing some free writing where you just spend 10 minutes and you just let your mind flow.
Hmm.
That's a habit you want to start. So, one of the ways to develop new habits is to attach mini routines to existing routines. So, let's say you've got your morning routine, and then you just say, okay, right after breakfast, I'm going to add this one new habit. Or when you get home from work, you've got the routine, you take the stuff out of your car and you maybe,
Hmm.
again, turn the oven on or start dinner preparation. Well, what if you added one more thing and you took the receipts out of your purse or your wallet and you put them in a place where you manage your receipts? So your wallet or purse isn't by the end of the week just overflowing.
Right. Now,
So,
would you put that on your to-do list, or are we talking like something you put in a calendar, or how do you get those worked into your daily tasks?
so I call them cheat sheets.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little cheat sheet. Some of us have an aging memory.
What was that? Oh, yeah.
So, maybe you have a little thing on your kitchen, inside of your kitchen cupboard door. And it's like, oh, yeah, these are the three things I do every morning before I go to work. And this is the new thing I'm working on.
Mm.
Or maybe you have a little cheat sheet on your outgoing door that says, don't forget, pick up the phone, let the dog out, da da da. Um, a way to kind of not just jog your memory, but when it's on that list, you don't have to have this running to-do list in your head. Don't forget to let the dog out. Don't forget to feed the cat. Don't forget to take your cell phone, because you can rely on that little cheat sheet.
Right. We had a thing where we were trying to teach our kids how to like clean up after a meal. Because of course they say, "Oh, it's all clean." You go and then there's a bunch of stuff in there. So we had this little checklist and we laminated it and had a little marker on it so that okay, did you clear the table? Yes. Did you Rinse the dishes. Yes. Did you load the dishwasher? Yes. And so I think that's kind of what it's a variation of what you're talking about there.
Exactly. And like if your kids always did three of the four things, but they forgot to put the soap in the dishwasher, that
Hmm.
would be something. That's a new thing you add that makes sure, yeah, that's that one little thing you forget. So we're just going to add that.
We
That's very
got we
smart that
got
you did
we
that.
got a little military too. We had a sign off on the bottom, so the parent had to sign off. But that's why I think our kids are in rebellion right now too. But that's an episode for another episode of a podcast. We're going to take a quick little break here because we've been talking about these to-do lists and the daily things, but we also want to maybe talk about weekly and maybe monthly tasks as well. So we're going to do that after the break. We're with Maureen Heinen from sendinmarine.com talking about to-do lists, the most basic piece of organization. And we'll be right back in a moment. Are you looking to get your office organized but don't know where to start? And what can you really do to keep your office organized? Smead has put together a new ebook to help you answer these exact questions. We've compiled the best tips from professional organizers around the country to help you tackle the most common office organizing challenges. Go to smead.com/office organization and get your free copy today. That's smead.com/office organization. The new organization for the office ebook from Smead, keeping you organized. We are back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about to-do lists with Maureen Heinen from sendinmarine.com. And Maureen, before the break and in the first part of this episode, we're talking a lot about daily lists and to-do lists. And we touched a little bit on the idea of the master list and then maybe grouping some of those things. But let's talk about maybe a little bit bigger time frame, maybe weekly and monthly. And how do those lists, to-do lists, maybe differ from a daily list, and how do they work together?
Sure. Well, you talked about getting military. Well, here we go, getting military. So let's say monthly.
Okay.
So every month something is going to come up. Every month you're going to, let's say, reconcile your checking account. Every month you're going to pay your bills. If you created a list with categories January, February, March through the year, you could also identify the things that come up at a particular time of year. Like, of course, April, your taxes are due, but maybe each month you could plan to spend half hour getting your receipts in order, reconciling your accounts, so that as you get close to April, you've already put in hours worth of work. Mm-hmm. And now it's just, it doesn't have to be a 3-day torture of getting, where are my receipts? Where are my bank statements? And then you also can use the monthly system in terms of finances again. Let's say you have annual bills you pay, or memberships, or insurance renewals, that kind of thing. Well, what if you looked at your annual calendar by the month and you saw that, holy cow, I've got 4 big bills due all in November. And that's right before the December holidays. Mm-hmm. I'd love to, spread that out a little bit. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can make arrangements to pay half the bill and then have the annual bill due in May, so that your budget is balanced out, spread out through the months.
Now, when you do you have a routine or a system for like making sure you check those larger period, like the annual list? Do you like pick a day during the month and look at it once a month, or how would you suggest implementing that?
So, when we were talking about the weekly dedicated days of mm-hmm. today's washing, today's ironing, that kind of thing. So if you said, Monday is when I do my home projects, and Tuesday is when I do my errands, and Wednesday is when I focus on financial. So it would be the Wednesdays of the week that you would take a look at these monthly things. Mm-hmm. And you could say the first Wednesday of every month, I'm going to look at what bills are due in this month. You could say the third Wednesday of every month. I'm going to double check uh, that, another thing about finance is that you want to just give a peek. And it might only take 5 minutes, but every third Wednesday of the month, you're going to give it a look see.
Right. Right. No, I think that's good. It's a good reminder to have those thematic days, I think,
Hmm.
as well. And probably even expanding that on even an annual basis. Maybe we kind of all know that like in the spring sometime we're probably going to be washing windows and we're probably going to be doing a little spring cleaning, and then we might be doing some stuff in the summer, like end of summer. I mean, I know like for planting a garden, for example, too, you kind of
Exactly.
there's a window, right? So you have to kind of get that on your calendar as well. That was my next thing. How do you suggest interfacing a calendar with a to-do list? And because some people say, well, if you have something to do, you got to write it on your calendar. And might write it on your calendar at 8 a.m. is when I'm going to do this task. How do you feel about the relationship of a calendar to a to-do list?
Sure. It works really well for some people to, okay, I've got to get a new cell phone. So I'm going to make a point to go to the cell phone store on Tuesday at 10:15 because that's my time.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work for everybody. I'd like to see things scheduled on a calendar because then you're accountable. But the thing about the dedicated days is you can kind of be a little more loose with that. And you can say, Tuesdays is my errands day. What are the errands I need to do? And then you can look at your to-do list and you can decide, is the cell phone place close to the grocery store? I have to go to the library. Do I have time to hit all three? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm talking about the things you do weekly, monthly, maybe quarterly, yearly, quarterly, like seasonally, I would create a document so that maybe a 3-ring binder. So you always know these are my standard things I do in this kind of time frame. Or you could make it digitally and you could have phone prompts,
Mm-hmm.
a little alarm that goes off that says, oh, it's the third Wednesday of the month. Are you going to attend to this today?
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, I like the idea of scheduling, but not everybody likes to adhere that particularly. They just like to know, yeah, Tuesday's my errands day. I'll figure this out.
Yeah, you mentioned Franklin Planner earlier. I remember in the olden days using one of those. Olden days, I guess, but um, they would have a thing where you'd have your daily list, and then if you didn't get it done, before the end of the day, you had to move it to the next day, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about that. We have our list of 3 things. We don't get number 3 done. Do we create a new to-do list for tomorrow, like the day before, or do you do it in the morning? What's your thought about rolling over tasks that aren't finished?
Yeah, I would roll over tasks and again, make your little, so you always have the top 3 priorities front and center. It might be that, oh gosh, tomorrow isn't the best day. I'm really packed.
Mm-hmm.
So you could put it on your calendar for, a week from today because you didn't get it done. And then you could just loosely write another post-it note on that day. Oh, that's right. I was going to be sure to do such and such.
Right.
So I'm going to add that to my little post-it.
Right, right. Well, these are some great tips here. Let's talk just for a moment here in the time we have left about sendinmarine.com and what kinds of services or resources you have available for people and how they can get a hold of you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, sendinmarine.com is the first place. There's a phone number on there to call me and an email address. These days, I'm doing more virtual
Mm-hmm.
organizing. I find that just fascinating. So many people will think, how in the world can you help me if you're not sitting right here? And I try to tell them, if I was sitting next to you, but sitting on my hands, we could still talk about sorting and prioritizing, and you would simply lift the box and you would simply move the file folder. So it's been fun. I've been working with people around the country, and it's just been great to see how much they completely get the work done. And it's just on phone calls.
Well, maybe some of the viewers or listeners to this episode will put that on their to-do list, is to get a hold of you, and especially since you're able to do some virtual help as well. So, well, Maureen, thanks again for joining us today. It's been an action-packed, to-do list-centered episode, and we hope to have you on again in the future.
Thanks, John. Take good care.
Great. Maureen Heinen from sendandmarine.com. Now you've got that to-do list. Go check a few things off of it today on Keeping You Organized.